You can't carry your future with the same hands that keep holding on to your past. But I know some of you feel stuck. Some of you feel like there's a stronger version of you trapped inside, just waiting for courage, waiting for clarity. Waiting for that moment when you finally say, but enough. I'm done being the smaller, quieter, fearful version of myself. But I've been there, and let me tell you, but the weak version of you doesn't disappear on its own. But you have to outgrow it. But you have to outwork it. It was during a moment when my present felt uncertain or uncomfortable. That discomfort was not punishment, it was the invitation. It was life saying, if you stay where you are, you will shrink. If you move, you will grow. And sometimes you don't know which choice to make, because both feel equally terrifying. But here's the secret, only one of them leads to the life you keep dreaming about. Answering the call of your future self doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's simply choosing discipline over distraction. Sometimes it's choosing honesty over pretending. Sometimes it's choosing to walk away from people who keep you small. Sometimes it's choosing faith even when logic is screaming at you. And sometimes it's choosing to believe, truly believe, that you are made for more than what you've settled for. It's easy to imagine the future as a destination you wander into someday. But it's not. The future is a relationship. And like any relationship, it requires commitment. It requires conversation. It requires responsibility. Every choice you make is either a step toward the person you're becoming or a step back into the person you're trying to outgrow. That is why answering the call of your future self is not a single moment, it is a lifestyle. And let me tell you something beautiful. When you finally pick up that call, everything inside you begins to shift. Your posture changes, your energy changes, your language changes. You stop living from your fears and start living from your faith. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if this is the moment everything changes? You start to feel alive again. Because deep down your soul recognizes itself. It recognizes the direction. It recognizes the truth. The weak version of you cannot survive in the future you're called to build. It doesn't have the stamina. It doesn't have faith. It doesn't have the fire. But the stronger version of you, the one you're stepping into, is ready to lead, ready to rise, ready to become everything you once thought was impossible. Your future self is calling, Dapia. Don't let it go to voicemail again. There's a moment in every transformation where passion stops being enough, where motivation, excitement, inspiration, all those beautiful sparks begin to fade. And this is where most people give up. They think the fire went out, they think the dream wasn't meant for them, they think the strength left their body. But the truth is simpler than that. You don't lose the fire, you learn how to tend it, and that is what discipline really is, the sacred act of tending the fire of your own becoming. People misunderstand discipline. They think it's punishment. They think it's a restriction. They think it's waking up at 5 a.m. with an angry face and forcing yourself to do something you hate. But that's not discipline. That's torture. Discipline, real discipline, is love in motion. It's the decision you make because you care about your future more than you care about your comfort. It's choosing long-term peace over short-term pleasure. It's an intimate commitment to the version of yourself you're becoming. I've had seasons where the dream was clear, but my consistency wasn't. Where I could feel purpose pulling me forward, but my habits kept dragging me back. And it took me a while to realize that the gap between where I was and where I wanted to go wasn't talent, wasn't luck, wasn't opportunity, it was discipline. It was the ability to show up when no one applauds, to stay focused when no one notices, to keep moving when no one is cheering. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not loud. It's not the highlight reel. It's the quiet work behind the curtain. There were mornings when I had to drag myself out of bed because my body was tired. My spirit was heavy, and my mind was full of doubts. But I learned something vital. Discipline doesn't require you to feel strong. It requires you to act strong. It's not about being in the mood, it's about being in alignment. Because when you act in alignment, the mood eventually follows. And when the mood doesn't follow, the habit sustains you anyway. We don't build discipline by waiting for motivation. We build discipline by keeping promises to ourselves. The small ones, the private ones, the ones nobody sees and nobody celebrates. If you say you're going to do something and you show up for it even once, you begin to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, your whole life shifts, because the world treats you the way you treat yourself. If you keep breaking promises to your own soul, life reflects that back to you. But when you honor your word, even silently, the universe responds in ways you can't predict. Discipline is your soul saying, I love you too much to let you stay the same. But it's your future self whispering, come find me. But it's God reminding you that faith requires action, not just desire. The weak version of you craves convenience. It wants the reward without the journey. It wants the results without the repetition. But the stronger version of you, the one you're stepping into, knows that consistency is a spiritual practice. It's how you honor your gifts. It's how you respect your purpose. It's how you prepare for the blessings you are asking for. Imagine the life you want, the peace, the confidence, the freedom, the success. Imagine the person you want to be, focused, grounded, powerful, disciplined. That version of you is not created by one big moment. It's created by thousands of small choices, layered day after day after day. It's created by leaving the bed when your mind says stay. It's created by studying when you'd rather scroll. It's created by walking away from distractions disguised as comfort. It's created by choosing growth over numbness. Discipline is not about forcing yourself, it's about training yourself. About training your mind to follow your purpose. Training your body to support your dreams. About training your spirit to stay steady when life tries to shake you. And here's the secret that nobody tells you. Discipline becomes easier when it's rooted in meaning. When you know why you're waking up early, why you're making sacrifices, why you're saying no to certain things. Suddenly the work feels lighter. Purpose turns discipline into devotion. I've learned to look at discipline as an act of tenderness, a way of telling myself, I believe in your future. And when you believe in your future, you treat your present differently. You protect your time, you guard your energy, you choose habits that serve your destiny, not habits that serve your fear. There will always be days when you feel tired, unmotivated, overwhelmed, but the version of you that can hold steady in those moments, that is the version of you that becomes unstoppable. Discipline isn't about perfection, it's about return. Returning to your path every time you drift, returning to your purpose every time you forget, returning to your strength every time you feel weak. This is the quiet miracle of discipline. You don't just build habits, you build a character. You don't just build routines, you build a life bar, and piece by piece, day by day, you become someone you can be proud of. There comes a point in your journey where you realize that the biggest battles you face are not with the world outside you, but with the voice inside you. That voice is clever, it's persuasive, it knows exactly which doubts to amplify, which fears to stir, which insecurities to press on. It comes dressed as logic, dressed as caution, dressed as comfort, and it whispers the same lines again and again. Start tomorrow. You're not ready. What if you fail? What will people think? Maybe this is enough. That voice is not your enemy, but it's not your guide either. It's the weak version of you, negotiating for its survival. Excuses are seductive because they feel reasonable, they feel protective, they feel like they're saving you from embarrassment, from failure, from disappointment. But what they're really doing is preventing your growth. They are holding you hostage in a life that is smaller than the one your soul knows you're capable of living. Excuses don't show up as monsters, they show up as comfort. That's why they're dangerous. I've had moments where my own excuses almost convinced me to settle. Moments where fear wrapped itself so elegantly in logic that I believed it. Moments where I thought, maybe I should wait, maybe I need more time, maybe I'm being unrealistic. And then I realized something life-changing. Excuses are the lies we tell ourselves when the truth feels too heavy, the truth that we're scared, the truth that we doubt are. The truth that stepping forward means letting go of everything that once made us feel safe. The weak version of you survives through negotiations. Just like a brilliant lawyer, it presents its case with confidence. Bar, you deserve a break. Bar, you'll be more focused tomorrow. That opportunity probably isn't for you anyway. BR, but the stronger version of you doesn't negotiate. BR, it decides. It declares, it steps. The moment you stop giving your excuses a seat at the table, you reclaim your power. You take back your time. You take back your focus. You take back your life. Growth is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose every morning in the smallest, simplest actions. Think about how much you've lost because of excuses, about the goals you never started, about the dreams you delayed, the relationships you avoided, the opportunities you talked yourself out of. But imagine if you had said yes to yourself sooner. Imagine where you'd be today. But imagine who you'd be. But here's the grace, you can still become that person. It's not too late. It's never too late. The moment you stop negotiating with your excuses, your life begins to accelerate. Suddenly the impossible looks possible. Suddenly the path becomes clear. Suddenly the things you kept postponing become achievements you're proud of. You don't need to fight your excuses. You need to see through them. They're not truth. They're not intuition. They're fear in disguise. And fear will always sound convincing right before you do something important. Every time you choose action over excuses, you build strength, you build confidence, you build resilience, you build a track record of bravery that becomes impossible to ignore. Your mind starts to trust you. Your spirit starts to rise. Your body starts to follow. And momentum builds, quietly at first, then loudly, then powerfully. Stop negotiating with the part of you that wants to stay comfortable. Comfort is sweet, but it's small. Purpose is challenging, but it's expansive. And you were not born for smallness. You were born for expansion, emotional expansion, spiritual expansion, mental expansion. You were created to grow, not just to exist. You were created to act, not just to intend. You were created to rise, not just to imagine. That has a life waiting for you that requires a different version of you. A version that doesn't delay. A version that doesn't settle, a version that doesn't wait for permission. That life is ready. But the weak version of you cannot step into it. It doesn't have the discipline. It doesn't have the courage. It doesn't have the clarity. So ask yourself right now, what excuse has been holding you hostage? What lie have you been believing? What story have you been telling yourself to avoid stepping into your power? And then decide, not wish, not hope. Decide that you will no longer participate in your own limitations. Decide that your excuses no longer get a vote in your future. Decide that fear no longer gets to dress itself as wisdom. Decide that you will move, even if it's slow, even if it's imperfect, even if you're scared. You don't need perfect steps. You just need honest steps, one after another, consistently, courageously, faithfully. Because once you stop negotiating with your excuses, you start negotiating with your destiny. And destiny always responds to courage. There comes a time in your life when you start to realize that not everything deserves your attention, your energy, or your heart. You begin to feel the weight of every conversation, every environment, every person you allow into your space. And suddenly it hits you, your spirit is not just a part of you, it is you. It is your power, your intuition, your peace, your clarity, your connection to something bigger than yourself. And yet for most of our lives, we hand it out freely. We allow anyone and anything to shape it, influence it, drain it. We forget that our spirit is sacred, that you don't realize how much energy you're losing until you finally find peace. You don't realize how heavy certain people feel until you meet someone who brings light. You don't realize how toxic an environment was until you step into a space that feels safe. Protecting your spirit is not about being selective in an arrogant way. It's about surviving. It's about staying aligned with who you're becoming. It's about refusing to shrink, to fit into places you've outgrown. I've walked into rooms where the energy felt like it was pulling me down, where conversations stole more than they gave, where the atmosphere made me question myself, doubt myself, dim myself. And every time I left those rooms, I felt smaller. You know that feeling, that subtle heaviness in your chest, that invisible weight on your shoulders, that sense that you're not being fed, you're being drained. When your spirit is sensitive, those moments are not random, they are warnings, they are signals from God, whispers from your intuition, reminders from your soul that you were not meant to live in low spaces, The weak version of you tolerates anything: negativity, gossip, comparison, noise, chaos. It allows people to speak into your life just because they have access to you. It keeps relationships that crush your confidence. It stays in environments where you have to lower your voice or your values just to fit in. But the stronger version of you, the version you're stepping into, knows that your spirit is too precious to be casual with. It knows that access is a privilege, not a right. Your spirit is shaped by what you consume, the music you play, the shows you watch, the people you admire, the voices you listen to, the stories you believe. Everything is feeding you something. The question is it feeding your fear or your faith? Is it feeding your insecurity or your identity? Is it feeding your weakness or your strength? There were seasons in my life when I had to distance myself from people I cared about simply because their energy was costing me my peace. And it wasn't because they were bad people, it was because their season was different from mine. Sometimes God separates you not to punish you, but to protect you. Not every person who walks with you is meant to grow with you. And that's okay. That's growth. That's life. Protecting your spirit means learning to say no without guilt, no to conversations that make you feel small, no to relationships that drain instead of pour, no to environments where you cannot be your full honest self, no to the version of you that settles for less than you deserved. It also means saying yes to things that nourish you, yes to peace, bar yes to purpose, bar yes to people who bring out your courage, bar yes to silence when your soul needs rest. Yes to God when He pulls you towards something unfamiliar but beautiful. When you protect your spirit, your whole life elevates. Your decisions become clearer. But BR, your goals become sharper. Bar, your relationships become healthier. Your self-worth becomes unshakable. But because it's hard to rise when you're surrounded by things that pull you down. It's hard to hear God when you're surrounded by noise. It's hard to love yourself when you're surrounded by people who don't know how to love themselves. It's hard to grow in places that don't water you. Your spirit needs space. Space to breathe. Space to heal. Space to dream. Space to expand. Give yourself permission to disconnect from anything that makes your spirit shrink. Your soul already knows what feels heavy and what feels holy. Trust that wisdom. And here's the truth. But the version of you that is growing, healing, evolving, that version cannot survive in the same environments that kept the weak version alive. But something has to change. Something has to shift. Something has to be released at BR because you are becoming someone new BR, someone stronger BR, someone clearer, someone who understands that your spirit is the source of your strength. And the moment you begin to protect it like it's sacred, because it is, everything in your life starts to transform. There is a certain kind of silence that only comes after failure, a quiet heaviness, a pause in the soul, a moment when it feels like everything you hoped for slipped right through your fingers. You sit there staring at the closed door, wondering how something that felt so right could end so painfully. Failure has a way of making even the strongest hearts tremble. It wounds your pride, shakes your confidence, and convinces you that maybe you were never capable in the first place. But here's the truth that took me years to understand. Failure is not a dead end. Failure is direction. It is life rerouting you. It is God protecting you. It is destiny adjusting your path. The weak version of you sees failure as rejection. The strong version of you sees it as redirection. And that shift changes everything. I've walked through doors I thought were meant for me, only to realize later that they were never aligned with my purpose. I've chased opportunities that my ego wanted, not my soul. I've held on to dreams that were too small for the person I was becoming. And every time I failed, it felt like the universe was working against me, until hindsight revealed that it was actually working for me. The truth is, you learn more from a closed door than an open one. You learn more from a mistake than a victory. You learn more from a fall than from a smooth path. Failure teaches you who you are without the applause. It strips away the illusion. It reveals your resilience. It forces you to confront your fears, your patterns, your weaknesses, your beliefs. You become honest with yourself. You learn where you need to grow. You learn what you truly want. You learn what you can survive. And that knowledge is priceless. People are so afraid of failure that they avoid trying altogether. They choose the safety of maybe one day instead of the courage of today. They choose comfort over progress. They choose the illusion of security over the possibility of growth. But when you avoid failure, you avoid becoming who you were meant to be. Failure is not something to fear. It is something to use, B-bar. Every failure carries information, .br, information about your strength, information about your direction, .b, information about your faith, .b, information about your purpose. Think about the moments where life knocked the wind out of you. Losing a job, losing a relationship, losing an opportunity, losing something you fought hard for. At the time, it felt like the end. You wondered how you would recover. You wondered if you'd ever feel whole again. But look at you now. You survived. You adapted. You learned. Something inside you stretched, expanded, evolved. You became wiser. You became tougher. You became more compassionate. You became more resilient. Failure gave you something success never could: depth. And depth is what separates strong souls from fragile ones. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is the passage to success. It is a teacher, not a punishment. It is a mirror, not a verdict. Every time you fail, the universe is asking you, how badly do you want this? Because dreams that matter will test you. They will push you. They will demand that you grow into the person who can carry them. Sometimes failure redirects you to a bigger blessing you couldn't see yet. Sometimes it stops you from settling for less. Sometimes it delays something because you aren't ready for it. Sometimes it strengthens your character because the journey ahead requires a stronger version of you. Sometimes it clears your path because you were walking towards something that would have broken you. You may not understand the purpose of the fall today. You may not see the lesson clearly yet, but trust this, nothing you lose in faith is ever truly lost. Every disappointment plants a seed. Every mistake shapes your future. Every no protects a deeper yes. Every ending is a beginning in disguise. The weak version of you fears failure because it thinks it says something about your worth. But failure says nothing about your worth. It says everything about your journey. Your worth is unchanged. Your value is intact. Your potential is still rising. Failure doesn't define you, it refines you. When you begin to see failure as direction, your whole life shifts. You stop taking it personally. You stop letting it break your spirit. You stop viewing it as proof that you're not enough. You realize it's simply pointing you somewhere better, somewhere more aligned, more authentic, more purposeful. And one day, when the breakthrough finally comes, when the door finally opens, when the blessing finally arrives, you will look back at every failure with gratitude, because without them, you would never have been prepared for this moment. Without them, you would not be this strong. You would not be this grounded. You would not be this ready. But failure was never the end. It was the map all along. There comes a moment in life when your own dreams, your own goals, your own ambitions stop being enough to fuel you. You reach a point where personal success feels good, yes, but it doesn't feel complete. You accomplish something you once prayed for, but the joy doesn't last as long as you expected. You check off achievements, you chase milestones, you collect praises, and yet something inside you whispers, is this all there is? That whisper is not frustration, it's calling. It's your soul reminding you that the strongest version of you is not built by living only for yourself. It's built by serving something greater. The world teaches us that fulfillment comes from accumulation. More wealth, more recognition, more admiration, more status. But the deep truth is this: fulfillment comes from contribution. Purpose is born when your life touches another life. Meaning grows when your strength becomes someone else's blessing. Joy expands when what you do is connected to something bigger than your ego. I've had seasons where my goals were all about me, my growth, my success, my progress, and I reached some of those milestones. I celebrated. I accomplished what I set out to do, but there was an emptiness, a quiet ache, a sense that something wasn't aligned. Then I experienced moments where I helped someone, encouraged someone, supported someone, lifted someone. Those moments filled me with something far richer than achievement. They filled me with purpose. They reminded me that life becomes extraordinary when it moves beyond self. Serving something bigger than yourself doesn't always look like grand gestures. It's not about dramatic speeches or huge platforms. Sometimes it's as simple as being kind when no one expects it. Sometimes it's offering your time, your presence, your guidance. Sometimes it's standing up for someone who has no voice. Sometimes it's sharing your experience so someone else doesn't have to suffer alone. Sometimes it's letting your story be a light for someone walking through the dark. When you anchor your life in service, you stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" And that shift, that one humble shift, transforms everything. It gives your struggles meaning. It gives your pain purpose. It turns your hardships into wisdom you can pass on. It turns your victories into hope for someone else. Your life becomes less about recognition and more about impact. And here's the beautiful part. When you serve something bigger than yourself, your strength multiplies. You gain an energy that doesn't run out, a purpose that doesn't fade, a motivation that doesn't depend on how you feel. Because you're no longer just living for your own happiness. You're living for a calling. That BR service expands your heart. It teaches you compassion. It deepens your empathy. It humbles your ego. It reveals your true character. It reminds you that your gifts were never meant to be kept. They were meant to be shared. And the more you give, the more you grow. The more you pour, the more you're filled. The more you help others rise, the more you rise yourself. There will be days when you feel tired, uninspired, overwhelmed. That's normal. That's human. But when your life is tied to something bigger, you don't stop, you don't quit, you don't collapse at the first challenge. You rise because your purpose is calling you forward. You rise because someone out there needs what you carry. You rise because your life is not just about you, it is about everyone you will impact along the way. Serving doesn't take away from your dreams, it fuels them. It brings clarity where there was confusion. It brings peace where there was anxiety. It brings direction where there was uncertainty. When you put purpose before ego, doors open that talent alone could never unlock. And don't think service means sacrificing your own dreams. No, it means elevating them. When your dreams include others, they become stronger. When your mission includes helping, healing, uplifting, you align with something divine. And God strengthens what aligns with His purpose. He breathes on it. He expands it. He protects it. You were not created to live a small life. You were not created to only chase your own success. You were created to create impact, to shine light, to heal people you may never meet, to touch lives you may never know, to plant seeds that bloom long after you're gone. And here's the deepest truth. But when you serve something bigger than yourself, the weak version of you cannot survive. It doesn't have the capacity, it doesn't have the humility, it doesn't have the heart. Only the strongest version of you can lead with purpose.br. Only the truest version of you can serve with love. Only the future version of you, the one you're becoming, can carry that kind of calling. And once you taste that kind of life, you will never want to go back. There comes a moment in your life when hiding becomes too heavy, when dimming your light feels like suffocating your own soul, when pretending to be smaller than you are starts to hurt more than being judged for being big. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. A realization that the world didn't ask you to shine, but God created you to. That your light wasn't given to you for decoration, but for direction. That your power wasn't placed in you to be silent, but to be seen. For so long, many of us are taught to shrink, to be humble in ways that actually mean invisible, to be polite in ways that actually mean voiceless, to be good in ways that actually mean obedient to other people's expectations. And slowly, without even noticing, you start handing away pieces of yourself, your confidence, your dreams, your identity, your spark. You start lowering your volume so someone else feels comfortable. You start hiding your gifts so someone else doesn't feel insecure. You start living like a shadow in your own life. But there comes a moment, and maybe that moment is today, when you decide that dimming your light is not kindness, it's self-betrayal. When you realize that playing small doesn't protect you, it imprisons you. When you understand that your light is not loud, it's honest. Not arrogant, but authentic. Not superior, but strong. Owning your light is not about being better than anyone else. It's about being the fullest, truest, most courageous version of yourself. I've walked into rooms where I felt like I didn't belong. Rooms where I questioned if I was too much or not enough. Rooms where people looked at me with doubt or with judgment or with quiet skepticism. And for a moment, just a moment, I would shrink, I would second guess, I would soften myself so the room didn't feel threatened. Until one day, I realized something powerful. If God put me in the room, then I belong in the room. And if my light makes someone uncomfortable, that's their darkness reacting, not my brightness misbehaving. Your light is not the problem. Their insecurity is BPR, and you cannot dim yourself to soothe someone else's wounds. You cannot shrink yourself to fit into places your soul has outgrown. You cannot play the weaker version of yourself when a stronger version is crying to come alive. BR. When you own your light, you walk differently. B. Your shoulders lift. B. Your voice steadies. B. Your presence expands. B. Your energy shifts the atmosphere. People feel you before they hear you. And that is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's what happens when your soul and your actions finally match. Bounding on your light means you stop apologizing for your ambition. You stop making excuses for your dreams. You stop asking permission to exist fully. You stop waiting for someone else to validate your worth. It means you stand proudly in your calling, even when it's misunderstood. You stand firmly in your truth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. You stand boldly in your identity, even when the world prefers you quieter. Because light is not supposed to hide. Light is supposed to reveal. Light is supposed to guide. Light is supposed to shine. The weak version of you is terrified of being seen. Terrified of judgment. Terrified of criticism. Terrified of standing out. But the strong version of you, the one you're stepping into, understands that visibility is responsibility, that being seen is part of your purpose, that your story, your scars, your survival, your successes, they all carry medicine for someone else. When you shine, you give others permission to shine too. You become a mirror that shows them their own strength. And that is one of the greatest gifts a person can offer the world. So don't dim BR, don't hide BR, don't shrink. Don't apologize for the fire God placed in you. BR, own your light when it's bright. BR, own it when it flickers. Own it when you're unsure. BR, own it when you're afraid. BR, own it until owning it becomes natural. Because there is someone out there praying for the kind of strength you've already survived to build. There is someone waiting for the courage you haven't unleashed yet. There is a destiny waiting for the version of you that refuses to dim anymore. You are created with intention. You are designed with purpose. You are crafted with light. You are not a borrowed light, your own. And the moment you decide to stand in that truth, boldly, bravely, unapologetically, the weak version of you begins to fall away. The shadows disappear, the doubt melts, the fear dissolves, and the real you, the powerful you, the chosen you, finally steps forward. Shine. BR fully. BR honestly. BR unapologetically. The world may not be ready, but your destiny is. In the end, everything you're searching for, strength, clarity, peace, purpose, it's already inside you. It's been there since the beginning. Your job is not to become someone else. Your job is to return to who you truly are. The world will give you noise, but God will give you direction. Stay close to that direction. Stay faithful to that whisper. Trust the pull. Honor the calling that refuses to leave you alone. You've walked through pain that should have broken you, but it didn't. You've survived more NTS that were designed to dim you, but here you are, rising again. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is grace. That is protection. That is purpose guiding your steps even when you couldn't see the path. So step forward now with courage, with conviction, with faith that doesn't shake just because life does. Step forward knowing that every weakness can be transformed, every fear can be conquered, every closed door can be replaced with something better than you imagined. Step forward knowing you were created with intention, designed for impact, built for a destiny that only you can fulfill. You don't need the world's permission to rise. You don't need approval to shine. You don't need certainty to begin. All you need is faith, even a small piece of it, placed in the right direction. And remember this truth, carry it with you wherever you go, when you walk with faith, you never walk alone. Bar, the path may twist, the journey may test you, but you will not be abandoned. Bar, you will not be forgotten. Bar, you will not be defeated. The strongest version of you is already waiting. Br, go meet them. Br, go become them. Go build the life that your soul has always known was yours. Br, because the world needs your courage. The world needs your resilience. Bar, the world needs your light. Bar, and it's time. Finally time. Bar, to rise.